Welcome to the Obesity Matters Wellness Workshop, where we embark on an incredible journey towards better health and wellness together. Whether this is your first time or you have been with us since we started this program, we are grateful you are here. My name is Rachel. I'm the Vice Chair of Obesity Matters and your host for this year-long program. Today, we have a special guest that's here to help us have better conversations about weight with our doctor. Dr. Kristin Terenzi has been a family physician for more than 33 years.
So remember that your primary care provider is not the boss of the relationship. You are a partner with him or her, and it is a collaborative effort. I don't make decisions and tell my patients, this is what you're going to do. We make decisions based on what's going to fit into my patient's lifestyle, what they think they can do. And I do my very best to offer them what's available in the realm of what their preferences are. So remember, you're actually in charge. You decide how you want to treat the obesity. You decide, and really, I'm just an advisor, and that's what your primary care practitioner should be. You deserve to be given every appropriate option for you to help and achieve your goal. And it helps a lot when you know what all of those options are so that you can advocate for yourself in the process of that. Remember, relationships always come. The best relationships are based on respect, mutual respect, trust, and good communication. Some doctors aren't very good communicators. Some are, right? But if you're a good communicator and you're making it very clear what you're looking for, it makes it a lot easier for them to be a good communicator and for you to get what you want. I think that you should also remember, you should never, ever feel blame or dismissal in that relationship. And if you do feel that way, speak up. Make sure that the person who's making you feel that way understands that their language or perhaps their actions have offended you and that you didn't feel that that was a therapeutic way for them to communicate with you. I don't think that many doctors try to be mean. I don't think that they try to be authoritarian. I think sometimes it's just their way. So speak up, tell them that this kind of communication isn't very helpful for me. And I think that telling them what you need is always very, very important. If for whatever reason you feel that that therapeutic relationship isn't there, that your primary care provider is not listening to you, you're really not on the same page, you may have to look for someone else who is. And there are lots of people out there that you could explore a relationship with. I think it's really important for all of you to remember that obesity is not your fault. There is a complex array of hormones and pathways in our body that make weight loss difficult, but not insurmountable. And I want you to know that it is a chronic disease. No one would blame you for diabetes or heart disease. Why would they blame you for this? And neither should you blame yourself. This is something to be managed your whole life. I've struggled with obesity for as long as I can remember. And I've been very fortunate that I've been successful to try to get me where I want to be, but it's a daily struggle. And I used to feel the same shame and it would affect my self-esteem. No matter how successful I was, no matter how much good I did, I always felt that it was my fault. And I know now that it isn't. And once I realized that and took control, that's when I really started to notice that things were going in a positive direction. And I'm no different than any of you. I'm not special. You can do this, and you just need a good partner along the way.
Would you mind sharing your own story of weight struggles, how you went about it, and just we'd like our audience to hear about it as well?
So the struggle is real. I was an overweight child. I went through school by definition with class 3 obesity. I was extremely overweight. I went with yo-yo dieting. I tried Scarsdale diet I'm dating myself for those people who remember that one. I still remember Thursday was fruit. But having said all of that, I tried every diet. I would exercise. I come from a long line of people who have been dealing with obesity their whole life. And I lost quite a bit of weight before I got married. I then went back up after I had my first child. I had struggled to try to lose the weight after that. And I finally decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. and I wanted to understand why I was struggling so much. So what I ended up doing was, this was about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know, I'm sure that you all heard of a medication called Saxenda or liraglutide. I decided that I wanted to try that. So I did, and I started to lose weight, but I realized that there was more to it than that. And I started to realize that my eating habits were very much related to my emotions. When I was stressed, if there wasn't a cookie, you better get out of the way. I mean, I needed cookies. Right? I needed that feeling of comfort when I was stressed. Now, I'm a doctor and I see 50 to 60 people a day. I'm always stressed. So consequently, I realized that I had behaviors that were not conducive to me moving forward. And because the medication made me so much less hungry, I realized I was eating when I wasn't hungry. And that's when I started to think, I have to change my behavior. I want to share this with you. I don't know if it'll help you, but it helps me a lot. I do what's called a 2-minute CBT. You've all heard of cognitive behavior therapy. It doesn't mean you have to lie on a couch somewhere and some psychiatrist has to go through everything with you. It's very simple. It's called mindfulness and CBT. When I'm reaching for something, I'm cognizant of everything that goes in my mouth. And the first question I ask myself every single time is, am I hungry? And if the answer is yes, then I ask myself, what I'm about to put in my mouth, is this going to keep me on my journey, or am I going to feel guilty about this later? And if the answer is, yeah, I'm going to feel guilty about this, I make a different choice. If I ask myself I'm hungry and I'm not hungry, then I ask myself, what's going on? What's the thought in my relationship with food here? And can I get the same feeling without eating and still feel better about whatever's happening? That helps me a lot. So it's all about behavior, and there's lots of treatments. Yes, the medication did help me quite a bit, but now I've changed my whole relationship with food, and now I don't need the medication anymore. And I've kept that 40 pounds off for the last 5 years. But it's a struggle. I mean, I just came back from Montreal at a conference, and don't put lasagna in front of me. It's just not, it's not good, right? And they did, and they kept asking me if I wanted more. And it was a struggle, and it will be for the rest of my life, because this is a chronic disease. And I'm accepting the fact that I'm going to have to do this, just like diabetes or hypertension or osteoarthritis or whatever it is. I accept that. I'm not going to fight that anymore. And I'm going to have good days and bad days, but there's always another day. So don't feel guilty. Say, okay, I maybe I messed up a bit, maybe didn't make the best choices. I'm going to move on. And that's what I've done, Priti. I've done that, and it's helped me. It's not perfect, but it works for me. I think a lot of you out there can develop your own coping skills and what works for you. Why would obesity be any different? You have the right to treatment. 100%. And whether your primary care physician or primary care practitioner, nurse practitioner, whatever, doesn't consider it important, it's important to you. And if it's important to you, it should be important to them. I don't want you to feel that this has to be an adversarial situation. It doesn't. But going into your primary care provider and saying, I'm really concerned about obesity. I know that there's treatment out there, and I'd really, really like to talk about what's available and what might be right for me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'll tell you, a lot of physicians seem to think that it takes too long. It's too time consuming to treat obesity. And I don't think that's true. The nice part is you have such a good relationship, and hopefully you have a good relationship with your primary care practitioner, that it doesn't have to all happen in one session. It can happen over time. But do make sure that you advocate for yourself and make sure that that's a health priority for you. 100%. Your primary care practitioner should know that you want to manage your weight. And there's nothing wrong with you saying, listen, if I know there's medications, I know that there's behavioral therapy, I know that there's dietitians that can help. I know in some cases patients who have class 3 obesity, that I know that there's surgery for this. Advocate for yourself. And if they won't give it to you, there are doctors out there who will.
So I have a question for you, Kristin. I happen to be in a very rural location, and on top of that, it's very remote. So if we happen to get access to a family doctor, we're pretty fortunate. And then on top of that, if it's someone that we can talk to about obesity, then
Yeah.
as I mentioned before, that's gold. Do you have something to share with individuals though that might not have easy access to a family doctor? How could we go about that?
Well, I think that's a very important point, because I have to realize myself, I live in a very suburban area, and there's lots of access, but there's lots of people all across Canada and all across the United States that live in rural areas. And, they're lucky if they do have a family physician or nurse practitioner. And if they're not on board, what are you going to do? Well, there are a couple of options. Some of the weight loss clinics will offer virtual care, and I know that here in Ontario there's a few that will offer that in many cases as a special issue. But remember, the other issue is this: there's so many things that your viewers can do on their own, and that involves hooking up with your organization for all of the resources that are available. Again, Obesity Canada is a tremendously good resource for helping you with behavioral therapy and nutrition therapy and so on and so forth. In terms of medication, unfortunately, if that's a route that you want to go through, you're going to have to hook up with somebody who's going to be able to prescribe that for you. But that's where you're going to have to advocate for yourself with your physician or your nurse practitioner. And again, a lot of places, especially the weight loss clinic, will speak to you virtually.
Yeah, it feels like through the pandemic, I think we all got a little bit more comfortable with virtual care, and that's definitely a very positive thing for anyone that's living remotely.
And in terms of weight management, it's actually not that hard to do, right? Some people prefer to just be there and sit down and have a conversation, but it's not that hard to do, because you can manage weight by using your own scale and having the same weight all the way through. And you can manage it with motivational techniques and mindfulness and so on and so forth over virtual care, for sure. So I think that it's definitely possible. Might be a little bit more hard and more difficult to access, but I think that that's improving every day. Relationship with food, it's our nutritional understanding, our portion sizes, our activity levels, and everybody is going to have a very clear idea of what their relationship with food is. Mine was not healthy, and sometimes still isn't, but it's a process. I'm getting there. I think that I'm starting to learn what I do, why I do it, and I'm trying to change that behavior. And Rome wasn't built in a day. Right? It's a process. So the more I do it, the better I get at it, and the more I learn about myself, and I learn about what my triggers are and how to get out of it. So I think it's really important. I know that the studies have shown beyond a shadow of a doubt, that if we who are living with obesity do not engage in behavior modification, we will not successfully stay at our goal. We may get there, but we won't successfully stay there. Don't be afraid to say, I got to look at this. I have to make sure that I'm addressing my relationship with food. And if you don't do that, you won't be as successful as you could be.
Yeah, and as we've talked about several times in these sessions, behavior change is really hard. And that's why it's important, going back to what you said earlier, but what are the things that you really want to be able to do? Maybe you can't do them now. Getting out, spending time with your grandkids. What are those non-scale things that are really important to you? And maybe that can be the big driver for those behavior changes.
And again, I think we touched on this a little bit today. Success is not measured by the number of pounds you lose or what size you are that you're going to go dress shopping. It's measured in your health and how you feel and your function. It's a win if you go up the stairs without feeling that you can't breathe, or that you chose to go up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. That to me is a win. Healthy behaviors are the win. So remember, manage your expectations. The other expectation is this: I will never be a size 2. Never, unless I have surgery to remove bones. Okay. I'm not going to be a size 2. Expecting that I'm going to, and making that my goal is unreasonable, unfruitful, and not fair to you. So make sure you pick goals that are achievable. Okay. Embrace the wins, Kathleen. That's the one. Embrace the wins. And success sometimes is the absence of weight gain. So if you didn't gain that month, but you didn't lose, it's a win because you've still maintained and maintaining. Remember, weight trajectory. People constantly go up every month and you didn't do that this month. That's a win. And the other issue is make sure that your PCP, your primary care provider, they know what your goal is. So make sure that their goal isn't a certain weight loss. Make sure they understand that you're looking for something very different. If you're on the same page, great. You've got the right person who's going to be your champion. And remember, you are in charge. You are able to change your life. And remember, what you're asking from your primary care provider is to help you get where you want to go.